Okay, this is going to be a quick one because the kids are up. Sorry if anyone was watching along with that first one. My daughter decided she was going to poo in her overnight nappy, which she is toilet trained. But anyway, so yeah, basically it kind of happened as expected yesterday. It went a little bit lower than I thought it might in the end. This grind down was, I was watching that live and that was kind of weird, but it found a base. And we have moved back to the upside, and sentiment was at its all-time low. Like everyone super bearish on it. But so in short, smart money is still buying, dumb money is capitulating. IBIT got some decent trades, led to upside. That dark pool one there is an interesting one. Just after the little high, it could be that they are just buying the dip and they just wanted to wait for it to actually move up, but a bit of a sell too. It's hard to say. So yeah, nothing much else so far on any of the other ones. Don't we closed yet? I think it's closed yet. Interesting to have a look over the weekend to see if there was any big dark pool trades at the close. But for the time being, it's really toward there. Retested the 200 EMA on the 15 minute, so 50 EMA on the 1 hour. I do expect we'll probably come back into the 82 500-ish. Just some big long trades in there to get liquidated. But yeah, generally CVD's flattened off or started to tick up. It's ticking up on spot, which is good. Liquidations, so we've started to tap into some pretty decent liquidation levels. This one here down around 82,800 is a point of interest. There is still quite a bit coming in. There was still quite a bit left over from the longer time frames down here. So something to keep in mind. I have a feeling this might have been the low for February, but March may actually come in a little bit lower and just sweep that. I have to wait and see on that. So I'm going to reload this because I don't know has the latest version on there. That's a decent buy signal there too. So you can see for the time being, we are pretty well overextended in terms of linear regression, but looks like there's a lot of vector candles in here on the 15 minute. Interestingly, we smashed through that vector candle there. So these green lines here are vector candles on the 15 minute from way back when we actually came up through these levels. That is done. This one here was an interesting one. So they took that and it looked like they potentially wanted more. Like you're grinding down like this. It looked not great, but decent buy signal after that. Still working on this script, obviously, but yeah, that was within $50 of liquidation, I think. Something like that. So taking profits on this for the time being and got a little short in just to pick up the 82 500-ish level. I think I actually set a little bit higher than that. Just to take profit early. You got the 50 EMA in here to worry about as well. We may not even get that low, though we are closing below the 200 at this stage with 30 seconds left. Could be wrong there. So that's sitting at 83,874. It's trying. Anyway. Yeah, back into this level here. I think it's got good liquidity there. That's 60 million worth of liquidity down there. Geez, that nearly closed above the 200 there. 83,875. $8 difference. There you go. Anyway, that's kind of what I'm expecting to play out. Don't necessarily have to come back in here straight away. May do, but we'll see. What I'm more interested in is we are back above this trend line here. So we wicked down and hit that trend line. We broke through it just here. We're still in the same day here. So what it'll look like on the daily. Oops. Daily. So it's just going to look like a big hanging man with, oh no, that's the hanging man. Anyway, bullish hammer. Although that'll be a red candle, but it is a hammer. As long as we close above this trend line, I would expect a decent bounce. I'd expect to bounce back up into this level. Probably some resistance here just because it was a previous resistance level. If we hit that and then break through this, that's full bear market. That was just a minor dead cat bounce. Still think we'll probably get back up here. Up into this trend line anyway, not necessarily up into that to the level, but it would make some sense. So yeah, as long as we close above that today, or even tomorrow we close above it, like if we close just below and then tomorrow we close above, then I'm fine with that as well. At the time being, that is a good spot to bounce from. Actually, surprisingly, pretty much retested this trend line too. As I said, like it could literally in the next day or so, we could actually come down and wick down into here before bouncing as well. But for the time being, it's a pretty good bottoming signal. And this trend line has held up again. It's just a matter of how high we go on the next bounce. I can't tell you exactly how high, but I can tell you it's probably going to be the last bounce we have before the start of the proper bear market. Could be wrong. Statistically, I don't think that's a bad prediction. Yeah, even on the 1 hour, there's a fair few candles in here that we can recover. I think for the most part, it'll probably leave half of them though. I think this bounce should have enough strength in it that it'll leave some of this behind because there hasn't been, like volume wise, there's not a huge amounts of longs in the system to liquidate. So it's just whether we leave this. There is a bunch of liquidity below this candle at the moment. May or may not leave it there for a long period. BTC longs, people are still buying the dip pretty hard, so that's good. Ethereum basically swept the low of that candle there. That was a pretty good buy level for Ethereum, to be honest. But yeah, again, coming up into a reasonably highly traded level there too. So Ethereum's going to have to do some work to get any sort of a run on it. Ethereum still could get to 3,000 just to recover this vector candle. But shit, not a super duper bull market, this one, was it? For Ethereum anyway. CME, that's a partial close on that gap too. So what I am thinking as well, given that CME is about to close in an hour. If we do have upside over the weekend, then it's going to leave a fairly big gap to the downside on CME. But we could easily hit sort of 98.5 over the weekend, recover that, CME gets up there, and then we just, that's the level of the bounce. That's where we start to pull back from. No idea. That's a guess based on just what's on the chart. But the fact that we didn't fully close this gap, if we do bounce, that's going to leave a lot of people shorting still. Just thinking about what would cause the most pain out there would actually be a bounce from here. We did pick up the 200 EMA on the daily as well, so that's a good. So just BTC itself, and that wasn't a bad level. Have just flushed it, but when we took out that vector candle and then some, but pretty decent bounce there, really. And we effectively held the bottom of this channel as well. So top of this channel is pretty likely, I would say. Potentially over the weekend, but at least early next week. Going to be some resistance there. I think 91.3 is going to be a key level. We may get a wick up into this trend line here. So even grinding up over the next couple of days into 94.5. The value area low there. Another pretty good level for a pullback. There'd be a bit of confluence around this thing here too. So March the 9th. That's interesting. I had March the 10th in there as a potential top on the markets, but somehow I don't think that's going to happen. Could be wrong, but that was just based on previous cycle lengths. Anyway, this is, for the time being, the bull market isn't dead yet. Need to close below that trend line here to really call that. And even still, you'd expect some retests of this, so bounces on the way down. And that's kind of the other reason why I was happy enough with this sort of leveling here, was that we just had so much down without much reprieve. So typically when Bitcoin does that, it will have a decent bounce. And as you can see here, feels like this is sort of what we have been doing down into this point. So you got to watch yourselves. 1 foot out the door at all times, take profit nice and early. But there's going to be bounces just to wipe out those shorts. So yeah, top of the channel might be an interesting one. If we don't break through this, then I'd say quite quickly we're going to be back down into 69 territory, which will be one of the shortest bull runs in, well, the shortest bull run in history, even though technically the bull run started down here when it broke out January 2023. We're a fair way into it too. Like, this is why I've been cautioning about this. People think there's a bigger bull run to come, and the liquidity wasn't there. All right, have a quick look at Sol. Oh, Sol got so close to that 119 level. Just going to bring this back here. Yeah, right, back above the point of control for this larger region. So let's zoom out a bit. Yeah. Dang, tapped the value area low too. So Sol, that's a pretty good level for Sol. I mean that was a good horizontal level, the 120-ish as well. But as I mentioned to some people in Origin the other day, that crypto will bounce before you think it's going to bounce, just to piss everyone off. For the most part, it's either that or it goes a little bit deeper than you think. Same at both extremes. But yeah, this is looking like a gigantic double top on Sol. I think that gave the measured move quite a bit lower than what we actually got to, but there's some volume there too eventually. So pull back up into, I mean, that was a reconfirmation of the breakdown level there. So you don't necessarily have to go all the way back up there, but I do like the 158-ish level on Sol. LTC, there's rumours about LTC getting a ETF, and Coin Bureau did a pretty good review of LTC the other day. It's probably not a bad long-term coin, really. Obviously, nowhere near its highs from 2021. Holy shit! I didn't realize LTC got that high. $100. But at the same time, this is actually a pretty good bottoming signal, and that's a breakout and sort of coiling above the breakout. LTC could actually go on a decent run here. I'd like to see it another close sort of above here, but have a look on this chart. See which way daily momentum's in. Yeah, I mean, that's a buy signal on the daily. It's not really a great setup the way this is calibrated. It's not calibrated for daily, it's calibrated for 15 minutes, but still you can see generally more upside after this ticks above the zero line. Be a little bit careful there, but interesting. LTC could be a winner. This could be your altcoin season as well coming in. BTC should run up, but alts may actually run further just because they've been hit so hard. Percentage gains wise, it's probably going to be better with alts, but geez, alts are not going to run like they have in previous cycles. It's just not going to happen. Sorry to say. SUI and XRP are interesting. XRP holding the line for the time being. I would have preferred it back into the 200 EMA, and that's probably again it's probably going to happen here is the next maybe few days, maybe a week or so, we may actually just chop around and then pull back down into this level. 200 EMA would pick up the bottom of this vector candle. So back into even once $1.70 on XRP over the next however long. That should be a reasonable spot for a bounce as well. But what would be more concerning is if we bounce here up into the 50 EMA on the daily, recover this vector candle, all the rest of the daily vectors are recovered, and then we just pull down further. I'd actually expect it to go a bit deeper than that, probably into this little buy zone in here, around $1.45. And again, you're probably just going to be bouncing. They're going to be more than likely dead cat bounces unless we get a run up on markets and new all-time highs on markets into the end of the year, which seems unlikely given the shift in money that we've seen from the big guys out of the market, or shifted the money into defensives. The bonds are getting a decent, some decent action at the moment. Hang on. So again, stocks have actually bounced here, and was suggesting that might be the case. Surprised again, they didn't quite hit the 200 EMA. So probably a little bit more to come. Percentage of stocks above 50 was down yesterday. Well, you expect that. Tesla getting an interesting little bid here. That could just be a retest of the 200 EMA. Tesla can rip though, so can break above that into this vector candle, and then a pullback wouldn't surprise me either. But just know that like this, whatever bounce we get here, it's got so much resistance that it's probably going to be this stage you would say it's probably going to find pullbacks. Interesting confluence around here for Nvidia, around 135 level. Google, so Google getting a bid as well. Most of these are hitting key levels that we've had on the charts and bouncing. So should get a bit of reprieve, probably the first couple of days of next week as well. Might be a little choppy, like if it does it'll be climbing the wall of worry. There's a lot of sentiment that's negative at the moment. Hang on a sec. And my daughter's managed to break a treadmill. Freaking kid. Meta, again, good level for a bounce there. Airbnb, it's recovered most of these vectors here. Probably, again, a little bit lower on some of these. Would have been nice. AMD breaking this trend line, but again, it could just be a fake out of it. It's a region. $100 on the dot's pretty good psychological level for a buy as well. SMCI is not looking great though. SML's broken back below that trend line, sorry. TSM retested the 200, hasn't recovered it yet. Things aren't great. Ford's up, Stellantis is, oh Jesus. Yeah, it's not looking good. Bounces may be limited, but US dollar charging as well. US oil finding resistance at the point of control. That's probably going to come back down. Silver's still going down. Gold's pulling back still. Again, looks like it's finding a bit of support off the middle here, but I prefer to see it back into this level. Potentially even lower. Copper seems to be finding support at the 0.5 fib there. So again, copper could bounce with the rest of the market. High yield junk is still, they're not worried. Bonds market doesn't seem as worried about this. There is a lot of money flowing into treasuries. So a lot of people are going defensive at the moment. This particular indicator, the bond LQD versus IF, so that's pretty negative. Suggesting maybe a little bit further to come. I mean, it is actually at a decent horizontal support level. Yeah, probably be okay for this to bounce somewhere around here. There's a lot of, that was a pretty big resistance level actually. So again, if that bounces with the market, then it could be an extended couple of days in back up into this region, I would say. If we're bouncing, rejecting off this, then that'll be the extent of the bounce, I would say. But yeah, high yield junk has just kind of ignored all this, which is interesting. So 2-year and 10-year yields are coming down. Haven't quite hit the targets yet. So yeah, it's just another sign. Oh, money's flowing into safety at the moment. And if the market bounces, it'll reverse a little bit. So what I'm actually expecting in here, so 10 years potentially back down to this level, and then a bounce, potentially even up into the 4.4 level. Hang Seng struggling a little bit. DAX has still got some strength there. DAX may not be done yet. UK 100, man, that's interesting. Doesn't look done yet either. Could be some resistance here though, and it's stopped right on the previous all-time high. So, bit of a coin flip on that. If it breaks to the upside as the US market's actually bouncing, that'll look interesting. The VIX one day is actually pulling back as well, which is that would pave the way for the market to actually be moving up, which we are seeing. The skew was down yesterday, and it did break below this trend line. Yeah, have a look at it after the close today. I suspect that's actually going to bounce. VIX pulling back after hitting a reasonable level. It got above 20, so it's, that is generally a decent level for a buy the dip. But again, I think we'll get some reprieve for a couple of days, but I suspect it'll come back down again. DJI bid there. So DJT and DJI versus gold are both upticking at the moment. That's the first break of that trend line as well, which is a reasonable sign for DJT. And back above this level for DJI versus gold. So again, there's some signs here that the market's pretty happy with this level. Good level for SMH as well, so semiconductors. Again, I doubt we're going to break above this, but if we do, then that's actually the bull run may not be over yet. XHB, ITB, they're both still at very low levels, but bounce from here on both of these would be to be expected. They've been beaten down pretty hard, but next time we come down here, I suspect that'll be a break of it, and that'll be a proper bear market sell-off, like recessionary big market crash type thing. So equal weight XLP versus SPY. It's broken the trend line, but it is pulling back. Equal weight XLY versus XLP. It's had a little bounce, not a huge one though. So again, it's not suggesting major. Wow, that's an interesting level. So XLP versus SPY has hit this trend line and rejected it for the time being. So there could be a bit of fight left in the market yet, but again, we're seeing a bounce at a key level on these. Yes, it is. So yeah, good levels here. Agree with a bounce happening on the markets. XLY, XLP, it's been beaten down pretty hard. Good level for a bounce.
Baby's dirty.
The baby's dirty?
Yeah.
Oh, you better give it a bath then.
No, the yellow one.
Yellow one?
Uh-huh.
Oh,
because it went on the swimming.
And fix it.
Didn't wet.
Oh, Papa.
I didn't wet. It does.
Yeah. Can't play with things like that on the treadmill.
I tried it, then it went under the swimming. Then I couldn't get it back.
Okay. All right, I'll come in a minute. I'm just talking to right. Marshy, what? Yeah, but not right now. Okay, just give me. It's probably that. Okay. All right, I'll have a look in a minute. Just let me finish this, okay? Sorry about that. So yeah, equal weight S&P 500 found support off that level. I didn't think it would, but it's the second time it's tested it. Again, if we come back down to that level, I suspect it's going down. Can you guys go into the other room for me? Yeah, can you watch it in the other room? Okay. I'll be out there in a minute. I'm nearly finished, okay? Yeah, so break back above the 50 on the equal weight cues. That's an interesting level. And same thing really on the equal weight S&P 500. So the SPY itself actually looks, it's closed back above that trend line. There you go. That's a big move there. Ooh, it's not quite there. I mean, the trend line's a region, but you have to look at that as positive for the time being, especially given some of the other signs. There's a lot of people that are going to be looking at this as a retest of that trend line, though. So, first couple of days next week, like if we do get a couple of days of up, that'll be good for the bulls. If we reject off this, then it's game over for a while. Bigger correction. But yeah, I do expect we get a little bit more of a bounce than this. It's not at a great level though. Like the 200 EMA there is going to be key still. But for the time being, S&P 500 closing above the 50 is a good sign. And yeah, sentiment was in the toilet. 60% of people bearish. It was like one of the worst reads in history as of Tuesday. Typically, that's a good contrary indicator. And I think I might leave it there today. That's S&P 500. Good level for a bounce there as well. Would have liked to see it a little bit lower again just to recover some of these vectors in here, but for the time being, little dead cat bounces are kind of the order of the day, I think. So CME has come back and nearly filled that gap as well. But again, pretty decent closes on that. Looks like it's going to probably close positive as well. BTC didn't come down as hard as I thought it would either, so that's interesting. Still got a little bit of life in it yet, maybe. I do at some stage this weekend. I'd expect these vectors to be hit, but at the same time, there is a lot of liquidity to take to the upside if it wants it. So good level for the bounce off that pivot as well. Cyclic RSI, we didn't actually get a bullish divergence on that. A little surprising. But it is getting overheated now too, so there will be pullbacks at some stage, but this can stay high for quite a while as we grind up. There's a few vectors on the hourly up into the 88.4, and then obviously this big one here, the pivot plus vector candle recovery at about 91. And then a couple other targets around 93, just under 94K is a big one as well. Right, so expect some general grind up over the weekend, to be honest. But yeah, it'll be probably a slower grind up than what you'd expect for it'd be what you'd expect for a dead cat bounce rather than what you'd expect for a bull market rally. Okay, that'll do. I'll catch you later.